All right. Okay. We're going to get this started. See what we got going on here. I am trying to make sure I am contacting everybody to let them know what's going on. I am here today. We will only be here for about an hour because, one, from my understanding, that's about how long these segments go. The live segments, I mean, they may run a little longer, but we're going to stop at an hour today. How about that? And um, I don't want to hold you long. So we're trying something new here today. For those who do not know, normally monthly between September and May, I host what's called Coffee and Conversation. And we usually meet live, actually in person, at the coffee. We've lately been meeting at the Cafe Fix Midtown, near in Midtown here in Cleveland at 6815 Euclid Avenue. And it usually runs from 6 to 9. So when we ended the session last month in May, I had noted, telling everybody, we were going to part for the summer and we'd come back in September. So what happened is one of the attendees, actually a fellow author, Mr. Jackie Smith, hopefully he gets to tune in today, suggested that I do a live over the summer and go from there. So this gives everyone a chance to tune in, chime in their thoughts and opinions and their stories, however we're going to do it. Do it this way. And so when we come back in September, what I'm thinking we'll do is combine the two. So while we're sitting in the cafe having a conversation, we'll also have it going via video so that other people can still tune in. Now, how well that'll work, we shall see, because what it'll mean is I'm going to need some people to help me with the filming, because I can't do everything. I can't run the camera feed, run the live in person discussion, take notes, ask questions. That's a lot going on. And so we're not going to do all of that. So if anyone wants to volunteer to help out, let me know and we will sync up and work it out. I have no problem with it. I actually welcome and appreciate it. So as we are here today, I thank you all for joining in again. I'm here today. I am Miss E. For all who don't know completely, I am a certified relationship coach and author of a book and workbook entitled Are You Sure That You're Ready? A Singles Guide to Preparing for Marriage. It's good for both wanting to be married, already married, you're just thinking about being married. If you're single, it's great because it gives you some things to think about to know if you really are truly ready to deal with everything that comes with being married, because a lot of people do not consider all the facets. They think about the wedding day, but not what comes after. So I just try to keep all that kind of thing in mind and let people know. I do incorporate part of my single story within there, the journey that I went through, things I thought about, things that I prepared, things that I got rid of. Just the whole gamut. I could, give people things to think about that they don't normally think about. One of the things I do mention is something as simple as, well, I don't want to say simple, but something that is necessary is to consider your space. And by that, I mean, you're single, you used to living alone, you used to having the whole house, the whole apartment, the whole space to yourself. Well, consider sharing that space and not just the living room, the dining room, things of that sort, but also your closet space, your drawer space, your shelf space, as far as in your cabinets, in your bathroom, the counter space, the sink space, all of that. Um, and being able to break it down and uh, split it up. I figure why not, as you're looking into it or you're strongly considering, purge down your closet or pare it back so that you have space for someone else. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to move into your house. You could end up getting a house together or move into their house, however it's going to go. But at least prepare the mindset of only using half the space. So for my clothes hoarders, my frequent shoppers who do not purge as often as you shop, these are the things I bring to mind for clients like you. Because you're just used to having your closet so packed up. And so we need to just pull it back a little bit, make room for somebody else. And everybody else say, well, they can have that other closet in the other room. Well, some people have clothes in that other closet as well. So we don't want to do that. So today we are here, and the topic of discussion is divine partner or disguised distraction. Where did I come up with that? Well, I was sitting here thinking about different topics, and I actually had a different one originally prepared, but then God dropped this in my spirit because He wanted for me to phrase it in this way. A lot of people tend to get into relationships without thinking about what their future will entail after connecting with this person. And though they think one thing going in, a lot of things tend to happen differently while you're in it. Um, I've known couples who have started out good, loving on each other, walking in purpose, or they thought, and then life happened. Something took a turn. They ended up breaking up despite counseling or going to the church, things of that sort, and something happened. So one of the questions that I tend to ask, or at least it's for my inquiring mind, did you consider, or was everything considered before you got together? On how things would go. And then at some point, did somebody change their mind along the way? Or did life come at them so fast or so differently to where the plan changed? And if the plan changed, does that mean your partner has to change? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Is it enough to work through, move past? I can't determine it. That's, for you all to do, but it's something to consider. I know some people like to casually date a lot, don't even think about, and they are going to process things a lot different. Um, One of the other questions is, if you haven't thought about it before, then now's the time to think about it. Um, And if you know what your purpose is, for those of us who know what our purpose is, what our call is, what God wants us to do in our life, have you processed it so that you can recognize the person that comes into your life to be the real divine partner or just the disguised distraction? And one of the things I like to do is um, define the words that are used here. And in this case, the word divine, in this case, which means of God, excellent or delightful. And then a distraction being someone that prevents you from giving the full attention to someone or something. And the way I like to put it for both is into the divine setup, we'll say, should line up with God's plan for your life, and that's also pending that you know what the plan is. And in the distraction portion of it, does it take your attention away from God and or from your purpose? So if you are here, because I can't tell because I'm doing the Facebook Live here on my laptop, so I really can't see or tell if anybody is really joined in, if they're here. So somebody wave to me and say hi. Same thing on Instagram. Hey, I see you. Hey, Auntie, I see you. So those are the questions that I wanted to ask going in the door. And then if you haven't written these things down, How would you recognize the person when they come? Because people say, you just know when you know. You got to know something else more than that. What is your guide? What is your, I don't want to call it a checklist, because a checklist, people think it has to be this, and this. No. What is your guide to help you along the way so that you can just kind of, I look at like um, little notes, if you will, that you put in place for you to reference so that you will know if this is what you need to be pursuing or not. And then when it's time to leave, are you aware? And then what do you do? What steps do you take to get out? Now, it doesn't mean you have to go in the door asking a whole ton of questions, a whole checklist of questions, because in prior coffee and conversation sessions, that has come up. People will say, I have this list and it feels like an interrogation on day one or date one, whichever the case is. And maybe it could be just me, because the blessing for me is that a lot of people come to me that I meet, whether I know them or not, whatever facet is in, they feel comfortable enough to share with me. They share their thoughts and their feelings, whatever the case is, even something, a simple conversation. At least so I go in thinking. But if you listen to the conversation, then usually people give you an insight of what they're thinking, what they want, and how they're feeling. The key is to really process it, and rather than try to say, I can change it, I can fix it, I can change their mind about it, or they'll change it later. Once they get to know me, they'll feel different. Well, what if they don't? That's the reality behind it. So, keeping those things in mind, just to kind of say, okay, as we're going through and we're talking, we're having the conversation, we say, okay, they say they want to share something like uh, how they're doing, how's it going? They're telling you about their life. They tell you about their ex. That's usually a big indicator of a lot of things. Do they own their responsibility, their role, and how the relationship may have gone wrong, where it took a turn? Did they really put forth a real effort? Are they owning any responsibility, or are they pointing all the blame? Um, I have found that when accepting your role in the departure of the relation, the ending of the relationship, and you say, okay, well, I could have done this, I should have done that, and I didn't recognize the signs, or I didn't act accordingly, I didn't say, do, whatever the case is. That's one thing. But if they're just saying, well, this person did this and they did this and everybody always do this and da 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 da, well, if it's everybody doing the same thing all the time, who's the common factor? That's you. So then that means, what are you going to do to change? How can you change it to change your story going forward? Because it is in your hands. So those are the type of things that come up and that you pay attention to where you'll know whether or not this is worth pursuing going forward. Some people, and I've fallen into this in the past as well, so I'm too have been guilty of this, which is also one of those self-reflection type of thing, because it's like, okay, well, if this person is doing it, if that person's doing it, again, I'm the common factor, so how can I change it? So in looking forward and saying, okay, going forward, someone may appear really good or look really good on paper. You know, they have the car, they have the job, they have, or the career, they have the bank account. Everything looks really, really good, right? Well, then emotionally, we may have some issues where when the going gets tough, they're not around, and not that they necessarily get going, but they're not there for you. So, what do you do about that? And especially if that's important to you. And and it's not even that you're asking a whole lot of them. You could simply be just making those like, I just need you to be there. If I need when I need a shoulder or when I need a distraction, I want you to be there. Can you be there for me? I'm not asking you to do anything. Mm-mm. I have people for that. You know, when you have a balance in your life and you say, okay, this person has the role of doing this. I have my best friends or my family to take care of A, B, and C. But for my partner, my mate, especially if the relationship is relatively new, you don't want to burden someone else with all of that. I mean, now if you don't have that choice and you all may have already developed a friendship and now you've taken it to a next level of being in a relationship, then you would say, okay, I need this. This is what's going on. Because a lot of times we can get overwhelmed and stuff can come out crazy if you're not careful, but you should be able to feel comfortable and free enough to express certain things to your mate, significant other. Um, and that sometimes can cause a problem. If that person is not emotionally equipped to handle it, that could be a problem. And even though in the case where, say, you prayed about it, you prayed about them, and all signs seem to indicate, yes, this is a good person to be with, but then you run into this issue. And even after trying to talk to them, you've gone to them, you've talked, even in the instances where you believe God said to you, this is the person you're to be with, is it possible you may have misheard something, or are you willing to stay to work through it? Are you willing to stay to talk to them, to keep talking to them, to navigate through this process and do what it takes to try to bridge that gap? And it's like, I really need it, but, and then in doing it, that means you have to put past your hurt to talk to them because you're still hurting all of this. So that means you need to go and vent out and say, okay, you really hurt me. Um, this isn't good. I don't know what else to do. How can we get past it if you're truly wanting to work past it? And if the person doesn't, then what happens? What do you do? How do we go about it? So those are some things to think about. I am open to questions and input as we move along through this. As I said on my Facebook, is it? Oh, wait. I want everybody to see it. Is that working now? I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Can you see me? I'm trying to work both of these out. Because I'm like, I'm up here and then I'm up here just thinking I'm talking to everybody, and I may have only been talking to myself on Facebook. That's crazy. So, so that's what we're doing here. Um, then there's the instance where you're married. You've been married for a long time. You all have been very good up until this point. And then something happens in your life to where your partner, you or your partner, feels like God is telling them to do something. It's telling you to do something, directing you to do something. In some cases, to join in on ministry. And that was not something when you all got together, that wasn't necessarily a part of the plan. So you're taking things to another level. Or in the instance um, on the instance where you are, you're walking with God, you are hearing it, and one person hears one thing and then somebody else hears something different. What do you do about that? How do you navigate? What do you do? Um, do you stay? Do you try to work it out? Or do you just throw in the towel and leave? Or do you agree to disagree, but then how do you move forward? Those are the kind of things I am asking, wondering, because I've never been married before. I have been in a couple of long term relationships, um, and I pretty much knew where I was going, where I was headed. And unfortunately, my partner did not. And so, not that they weren't trying to be supportive. And for me, the support means them being able to support me along the way as I'm doing, whether it's encouraging me, um, uh, being there either at the event, or if they can't be there physically, then they're talking to me on my way, on the way back, that type of thing. That for me is support. And those are the kind of things that some people, can appreciate, helping to send information out. If you're handing out flyers, hand out that type of thing. Tell people about whatever it is that I'm doing, that type of thing. That for me is support. For others, it may just mean just being able to sit there and listen to me as we're going through different things, um, as I'm preparing for different things. Not trying to talk me out of it, not trying to downplay it, not trying to belittle it, because that too is something else that can create an issue. So, and it's being able to handle that. So if you're thinking you're called to this person and you all supposed to be together, but then all of a sudden you start off in your purpose, and all of a sudden now they're pulling you away. They want you to spend more time with them, less time with what you're doing. How do you handle that? How do you handle that? Will a conversation, just one conversation, work, or do you need more? Will you need counseling? Will you go to counseling? Will they go to counseling with you? Someone posted about that the other day. If one partner wants to go to counseling, the other one doesn't, what happens then? I feel like if it's important to one, it's important to us both. Because if I care about you and you're saying we're having a problem, and if I can't see the problem, then there's a problem. There's definitely a problem. So I'm just it's just one of those things. So you can chime in. Thank you for those who have been joining, who have recently joined in. Appreciate you. And we're just talking about being able to recognize a divine partner from a distraction, a disguised distraction. Almost like a wolf in sheep's clothing, or exactly like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Because it's been said and proven that just like God knows what you want, so does the enemy. And that's whether you believe in God or not. I mean, that's just real. Just like you have one side, you got good and bad, good and evil, however you want to look at it. And so knowing that people come in with ulterior motives and being able to recognize that is key. People can play a slick game. They run it for a long time. That's what they do. Deception is their game. How do you get past that? And what do you do? Do you seek help? Do you have to leave your residence, your state, whatever? Some people go that far. Others, you just can just associate and keep it real simple. But some people don't like to end well. Um, how do you handle it? I am looking for feedback and input from the from your audience, from you, the viewers, the watchers. Hey, that's whether on Instagram or on Facebook. I said, I ask, how do you recognize it? At what point do you say something? Um, Recognizing that if you know what your purpose is, are you asking for confirmation or seeking guidance in the beginning of the relationship, or do you wait and you feel like you sprinkle it on them afterwards? If you've already been in a relationship with them, how do you handle shifting in this process? I've known couples who they started off, both of them were not walking the same with the Lord, if at all. And then all of a sudden they decide, okay, now I want God in my life and I want him on a regular. Okay. And the other person says, I didn't sign up for that. I'm not trying to do that. What do you do? Is that enough to come between you? And sometimes do you ruin it or add salt into the wound by constantly talking about it, bringing it up without having a balance or being insensitive to where they are in it? Because there are times where saying less is more. You can show them by doing, but not so much that it alienates them. Um, I know a lot of couples who, for a long time, the typical back in the church, back in the, younger, older days, where the wife was always the one going to church and the husband would stay at home. But is she staying gone so long to where he's resenting the church? Is she so busy in church that she's forgetting about home? And one of the things that I recall knowing that Your home, your marriage is your first ministry. That comes first. Your spouse should come first. Um, and that's just the order, the way God set it up to be. That's the order. And if you're out of order, then everything else kind of goes out of order as well. Um, so I am asking, I am looking, I'm making sure I am tuned in on all sides. I thank you all for joining. And if it turns out we don't have a lot of questions or anybody can give any input as to what you do, how you've gone about it, if they have any similar stories to share, if you come back later and put some things on, I would very likely to, I can come back and answer. If you inbox me with some questions, I can address them. I can address them separately, of course, anonymously. I have no problem with that. I'm just trying to say hey to those who are joining in. Thank you so much for joining. So it's just recognizing your divine partner from a disguised distraction. What do you do? How do you go about it? For me, I try to make sure I go by my list and I continually go back to God. I always ask him at different times when I see different things, okay, is this I remember doing this class called Boundaries in Dating, and in doing so, it said you have the red flags, and it doesn't always have to be red per se, but it can be a yellow flag. Green is always go. We just want to go, but there are times we should have that yellow flag that's caution. Let me hold up a minute. Let me just kind of see, is this something I need to really make note of? Is this a real concern, or um, is this just a temporary thing that we can get past? Or is it a red, blatant, you need to run, you need to get out type of thing? And just note that accordingly. So thank you all again for joining in. Like I said, if you have questions, if you want to join in, you want to share a story, if you two have encountered your divine partner, or in the past, have you come across that distraction that was disguised, that wolf in sheep's clothing, and what did you do to get out? Um, so many things, so many people have come across. And it's usually something different. I made a note here. The distraction is not always obvious. It can be subtle. Um, I know someone who kept talking about wanting to go back to school. They wanted to improve themselves. They wanted to do some things, and they simply just did not. When they were made it mention to their partner to say, I want to go back to school. I think it's time for me to go back to school and continue my education. Well, the person either started belittling them, and then not too long later, um, she ended up getting pregnant. So then, of course, that delayed her going back to school. And then when it was time again, okay, she says she waits the time, has the baby and everything. Okay, now let's go back. Well, now we don't have the money to go. But yet you're going off doing all the things that you want to do. So it's always something, So what do you do with that? If there's continually holding you back, being able to have the strength to say, okay, wait a minute, hold up. We can always do what you want to do, but when it comes to me, where there's always something wrong, that's a problem. So then you have to consider what you're going to do with it, how you're going to get out, how you're going to address it. Either way, and I know it's not always easy to just walk away, but you do need to take note to it. So these are the kind of things. I've shared a couple of stories on how some things have happened. Um, People that I've known come across, whether casually, personally, whatever. Um, and it's not easy, because it's something else to be believing that you're walking the right way, going the right way, that you're hearing from God as you should, and then something is just not adding up. And it can be discouraging. It can be very discouraging at times. Um, and me personally, I always go back to God and say, okay, how are we going to do this? What you going to do? I thought I could have sworn you said this. I know I heard you. I asked for confirmation. You gave it to me. I asked for a specific confirmation. You gave it to me. And now what? Now what we doing? That's what I do. I mean, that's when it comes to relationship. That's when it comes to my businesses. Um, all of that. I take all of that right back to him because for those who know me personally, know that me being an entrepreneur was not something that I had intended to do. I was really okay with being working my 9 to 5 and everything, but God called me to do some other things, and then when He really told me to step out full time, I was like, "Ooh, okay, all right, you sure about it?" And I did. I went and asked for several confirmations. He gave it to me as easily and quickly as the next day, and they kept coming. So I said, okay, well, if you want to do this, okay, we'll do it. And so when things get a little rocky, and they still do, I still go back to him and say, all right, now, you said this, and I know trouble doesn't last always, as they say, or God doesn't put more on it you can bear, and that sounds all great. I've even said it myself. But at the time that you're going through it, you're like, yeah, I'm not trying to hear that right now. I need answers. I need some movement. I need something good to happen. Those are the kind of things that I know myself I try to remind myself of. And then I put it back on him. I'm like, okay, well, we're here because you told me to be here. So what do I need to learn? What do I need to do? Who do I need to go to? So that's where we are. So you are not alone in this journey, in this, it happens, So to go to God and take it back to Him, that's where I start. So, and that's why I try to encourage my friends and family to do in the process. And so just keeping that focus. And I think that's the other part in making sure you're with the right person because it does get hard. It can be that struggle. So in that, you need someone who's going to help hold you accountable and is going to help you stay focused and help you stay on point because it's easy to walk away. It's easy to quit. Well, I heard it's easy to quit. For me, I've never considered quitting as an option. So I'm like, how do I move forward? That's my thing. And so I work better with someone saying, come on, you can do it. Let's try this. Have you considered this? Give me other obstacles or not other obstacles, but other options on how we can move forward in a positive direction. And I do the same for them because at the end of the day, when you're in a partnership, especially a marriage, yes, it should be the center of all relationships. It should be. But some people get real caught up in the physical. Oh, he's this. Oh, he's that. He has this. He has that. He has money. He has job. He has, all this what appears to be security. But at the end of the day, like I said, emotionally or even sometimes spiritually, they aren't as mature as you would have thought they would be because on the outside or on paper, they look great. But looking at the heart, the center of it, and then they don't always want to address it right away. So that can be a struggle. And then they may not even be open to hearing that, boo, you look crazy. You look touched. We need to go sit on the couch with somebody. We need to go talk to somebody because if you're not getting through, it might help for a third party. That was one of the things that got me into coaching to begin with because for those who know me, I always try to be that voice of reason that, well, maybe. And I can find a lot of well maybes a lot of times. And then there are times when they can't be found. There aren't any there because it is what it is at the end of the day. So uh, I'm like, well, in the case where you don't want to listen and it might help to be translated for you because it's like there's always a different perspective or a different standpoint and you want to consider where the other person is coming from so that you get an understanding. and where you get an understanding, because I've heard some say he's crazy, he's looking at it like this, he's looking at that, versus, okay, well, no, let's look at the whole picture. You said he recently lost his job, or you all just recently moved to another state, or so it's a lot of new going on. So if you changed the program but you didn't give him the memo that the program was changing, that's a problem. You can't assume the other person knows. I always say a person can't do what they don't know, and they will not know unless you tell them. So don't assume. You say, well, they should know. They should, but they don't. Assume they don't. How about that? And to say, oh, they're grown, they should know better, this, that, and the other. No, because depending on how they grew up and what they've dealt with, if you look at their family of origin, or even their pattern, how they interact with their family now, how do they usually handle things? Do they shut down, or do they argue, or do you always have to yell to get your point across or for it to be heard? And you're a person who just likes to, I just like to talk in a calm voice, and we can just have a discussion, and we can talk, be sensible. That sounds really great. But they don't deal with it like that. So it's just like, okay, what do you do? What do you do? How do you talk their language? How do you navigate through it and move forward? So it's just going through with that, and just being honest with it. That's what I do. I've redirected or translated some other thought processes for some of my friends and some of my clients that say, okay, well, consider from their perspective based on what you've told me, because I don't always know the other party's side. And so I'm like, okay, all things being fair, because I'm not here to take sides. I'm here to listen, and I'm here to be, again, that voice of reason, because I'm thinking that's why you called me. So I'm going to try to say, okay, well, consider from this perspective, and then take that back and see what happens. And given a lot of times, I'm right, because I can say, fortunately, because of the relationships I've developed with both men and women over the years, and myself, of course, being a woman, but having a lot of male friends in particular, I have found that I can help translate for the men to the women. Okay, and that's still remaining impartial, just to say it. Okay, and then I've done the same thing for my guy friends as well. I'm like, okay, now I know one of my one of the coaches, Tanya, she mentioned the other day, she did a live feed about it, about how some women can be complicated. We as women can be complicated at times, and some will agree, some will disagree, and we can agree to disagree. But a lot of times we as women sometimes overthink things, or we just put men in, we forget that men, a lot of men tend to work in that box. That waffle concept, that this men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti. Yeah, that's true. We as women can go all over and still come back to where we originally started. Men are like, okay, I'm working on this right now. I don't want to talk about nothing else right now. I'm working on this right now. They may be able to follow your conversation, but when it comes to a work in progress or a process of doing something, they're just like, hey, this is me right here. So it's being able to recognize that, and then to navigate within that. Because you'll give them something, and it may take them a minute to do. It will, because that's what they do. And if you look at their pattern of behavior, that's what they do. And you give them that time, and then they'll come back. And I mean, yes, we as women want things done right away, because we're ready to do it right then. That's why we bring it up. However, that's not how they process. So we have to be a little patient. And then sometimes it's the other way around. Men can be impatient with us because they're used to the go, 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 go. And then all of a sudden they say, you know what? And then she doesn't move like that. She doesn't process like that. Work with her. Especially if you chose her and you married her or him, yes, we need you to be patient. Give me a little bit. Because I'm sure this isn't something new. It's just that you're frustrated now because you wanted to make a move on something. So do you give up at the first sign of conflict? Or, is that how you used to processing? And when it comes to marriage, you're supposed to try to stay in it for the long haul. Like, aside from abandonment, adultery, and abuse, you should usually be able to work it out. And then others have chosen, in spite of even those three, to still hang in there and stay for the sake of the marriage, whether it's kids involved or whatever, feeling like you can work it out. Doesn't always work, usually doesn't when it's those three. But yeah, because the adultery, that sometimes you can come back from, depending on what happened, what was really going on, if both parties have agreed to move forward, move past that at this point, really move on, not hold it over your head later on. Oh, that's why you did X, Y, and Z, or that's why so and so. And don't let a kid come from it. Mm, that too can be ugly. So, but if you agree to move on, then agree to move forward with the relationship, then do that and agree to just let the past be the past and start new. So, um, if we have questions, comments, uh, I'm open to hear. We have about another 20 minutes here. Um, I know I, for the most part, have been taking on the conversation, um, but I would like your input. Have you come across? What do you do? What do you do if things start off good and they make a bad turn? Do you still consider them your divine partner or a distraction that you need to release yourself from? What do you do? What do you do? So, we've been here. I appreciate everyone for joining in on both counts. And I don't know. Seems to be good. I apologize to my Facebook friends for the delay and you all being able to see me because I didn't realize that the feed had me on private. I'm trying to host a live event and they got a private. I'm like, what good is that? So I've been here just sharing my thoughts on the different things. Since that often as women, we think the man is supposed to know how we are feeling. That is so far from the truth. We must communicate what is going on. Yes, Kelly. Yes. Say that, please, again. That's what I said. Because I'm like, who does that? I'm like, do you hear yourself? Like, no. No. Mm-mm. Now, they do get better over the years. If you've been with them a while, then yes, they should be able to pick up. You may be able to pick up on each other. But again, don't assume. You check in, and then women, when they check in, don't just tell them nothing. I'm fine. Don't give them those blanket answers because then you're still frustrated. You are still frustrated. Just cut it out. Just share your thoughts. Try to be calm about it. I know sometimes it can be frustrating, but just try to, okay, here's what's going on. Just this, because I believe as you learn their love language, as you learn their language, period, and how they communicate, you will know better timing, you will know better process and even verbiage to use and not use to get the result that you want, the desired result. I too have practiced that. Um, I remember being in a relationship and some things are going on. I'm like, okay, when I said this, that didn't quite go like I wanted it to go. And like I said, timing is key. So if they're already frustrated from the work, from the job, from business, things aren't going good, then you say, okay, now might not be the best time. And then just try to, but don't let it hover too long either. So it's like being able to address it, but knowing how to choose your words. And again, that's where prayer comes in. Now, God, give me the words and the opening on how to bring this up and how to address it. And usually he does. I know when I've done it, I get the opportunity pretty soon. I get to know how. So if you're married, you need to seek counseling to help in the areas of deficit. That is true. But Cheryl, what if they don't want to go to counseling? Because they say, I don't want everybody all up in our business. Then what? How do you do that part? How do you talk them into it? Aside from, well, you're not listening to me, so we need somebody else to listen. But again, it's timing. And then they may try that, we don't have the money to pay for it. Well, it's covered under our insurance. So, yeah, we should probably utilize it. From my understanding, because again, I've been out of the corporate world now for a whole 7 years, y'all, 7 years this month since I stepped away from a regular 9 to 5 job that I had been at for 10 years to do this. Um, because God said. Also, counsel is not a bad thing. We need to understand that as a people. Yes, say it again for the people in the back, Cheryl. That's what I say. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think now platforms are using, people are using their platforms to encourage that more and more because it has been always so taboo. And it's like you can go to people, and it's just like finding the right person. You can't say, what, Kelly? Go into that conversation with an open heart. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to be closed off to anything, but it's making sure that your partner is also, that you're as open as well as they are. Because one of the things I have found too that has happened is that uh, you go in wanting to run in and say XYZ, this is what's wrong, but then you don't prepare yourself for what your partner's going to say back to you because you're pointing the finger, and then you come back and have to realize, like, well, wait a minute, but I think you do this or you don't do that, or that I notice that you do A, B, and C, and that could be good or bad. And so you don't realize, I think a lot of times we as women can underestimate what our mates pay attention to. They pay more attention than they make note of. They just don't always say something about it. We always would have an opinion about it and vocalize it, and they don't always. But then they do take note of it, and they'll bring it up later. And you're like, oh, okay, so you were paying attention. Oh, no, I think you misunderstood me and say, okay, saying to your partner you want to go to counseling, but you aren't going to want to go. No, it's more so say, hey, baby, I think we need to go to counseling because something's wrong. We need to fix it. We run to a friend who's often broken for advice, but won't go to professionals. I know, right, Cheryl? Exactly. That is so true. And that friend will be the one that, if you listen to them, then they won't guide you right. It's like knowing who you're talking to. It's like, come on now. It's like if you go into the girlfriend who never have a man, she's always bitter, angry, or whatever. Of course, she's not going to always encourage you to stay with your man. Like, girl, you need to leave him. Ain't nobody got time for that. I would just do this. I would just do that. Yeah, and how's that working out for you? Oh, that's right. It's not. Don't do that. So it's like being very mindful of who you have in your circle, who you allow in your ear. That part, that's always the thing too. So being mindful of that. So yes, we always need to be open with it without trying to duck. And that, Kelly, one of the things that I say is that if you speak life, if you speak life into your relationships, into your out of your own mouth, that is going to be a large key. I'm always about encouragement. Those know me, know me, there's always a good side to it. You can always talk yourself into it, but you have to choose. You have to be careful of those negative words. You have to be very careful. Hey, Tarsha, how you doing? He said, we must change the stigma associated with seeking professional advice. It's not a bad thing. As someone else said here, how can someone else give you advice when they're not all together themselves? Right, right. Exactly, exactly. That is so key. That is so key. That is so key. And trust and believe that the professional that you were seeking to go into, they have someone they go and talk to because it's something else to keep all of that in your head with so much else going on. I'm doing good, Tarsha. How you doing? Hope all is well with you. Um, there is power in the tongue. Yes, Cheryl. Yes, it is. I say that all the time. Watch your words. When I hear my friends using some things, I look at them and say, what did you say now? Say that again. And they know what that look means. I'm like, what is that? Say it again. And then they change, like, okay, what I meant to say was this. I'm like, yes, and say it again. Speak it positive. That's what you got to do. I mean, it can be hard. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. I get it. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Kiana. It can be hard, but be careful what you speak and be careful what you think. Not only to yourself, but especially to your significant other. whether it's temporary or on the way to permanent. Because even if you decide to end the relationship, be it it's just starting out or it's been long term, do your best to leave on a good note. Just if we can't get past it, if we got to move forward, great. I wish you nothing but the best. I wish you nothing but the best, because if the best happens to not be with you, then so be it. Then that means there's something even better for you. And you all just may have been that catalyst to point it to that direction. How did, I remember the example being used. You can't move a car if it's in park, but if it's in drive, you can do that. You can move it if it's in drive. Even if it's in neutral, you can still move it. It can be moved. So, let's do that. Thanks, Cheryl. I so appreciate you guys joining in. I'm glad we got that kink worked out. So, here's my thing. Without going so extra on that, hey, Karen, because we're coming to the end. It's got about 10 minutes left, so I'll take any questions that you may have for me, or if you want to bring something else to the front. We can do this again next month if you want. And now that I know better how to make sure it's public when I go live, we will do that. And if you have any topic suggestions, if you can think of them now, great, let me know. If you need to, you want to inbox me or text me, that's fine. If you want to post it in the group, that's fine. I will take it. I will take all suggestions, because we'll have July and then we'll have August. And like I said earlier, if in doing in September, when we go back to actually meeting in person as the groups go, then we can, if anyone wants to volunteer to join me to help with the audio visual portion of it, I welcome it. If you want to tune in on next time, if you want to set it up and say for the questions that I ask and things of that sort, if you want to help take notes, or you want to share with the group in some form or another, or even with these live videos, because here's the thing I found out you can do. You can actually technically join in on the conversation, meaning we'll do a split screen and we can talk back and forth on what's going on, and sharing notes and things of that sort. So I'm open to that as well, on the topic at hand. So let me know. Okay. I think I'm going to also post this on my YouTube channel by the same name as the group, the A-Y-S-T-Y-A-R. And that is the acronym for Are You Sure That You Are Ready? That's just the title of the book in the workbook. Yes. So, so that's what we'll be doing. If you want to connect with me later, feel free. I will be this coming Sunday. If you're looking where to find me for some glory loaves, I will be, where will I be? This Sunday, I will be on the west side at the Cornerstone Event Center. It's off of Ridge Road in Brooklyn. And I will be there. It's a fashion show event with Miss Stephanie Nunn, with her Nadira collection. And I'm looking forward to that, because she puts on a fabulous event. I was able to join in with her last year, and it went over very well. So I'm looking forward to being there again. What loaves will I have on hand? Let's see. I will have some regular cinnamon and raisin. I will have some cranberry and walnut. I will have some vegan, the vegan cinnamon and raisin, and the new all-in vegan loaves, which is the cranberry, walnuts, pecans, and raisins. So I will have that this Sunday. And next Saturday, I will be back at Milwaukee Burst with my loaves as well. Now, Milwaukee Burst now has both the regular and the all-in vegan loaves. So, yes, Tarsha, vegan loaves. Yes. So if you want to order them, just let me know. I ship. I can meet you up. You can come pick them up. However you want to do it. We can work it out. Okay. And let me see. So I'll be there Saturday. And where else? I think that's it for now as far as my events for June. because that takes us to this week and I mean Sunday and then Saturday. Sunday I'm gonna be off because I'm gonna hang out with my dad. So that's what I'm gonna do because I had to postpone our father daughter day for Father's Day last week because I had an event. So this vegan lifestyle, I know Cheryl, but you know what? I have found some good alternatives, in experimenting with these different recipes and everything. Now, I'm not vegan. I'm not saying I'm vegan. What I'm saying is I've tried some of the different recipes and things of that sort. Same thing with keto, because I have keto loaves now. I think, yes, I'm going to have the keto loaves at Fawaki Burst next Saturday. But of course, if you want to order some between now and then, that's fine. We'll deliver it. Hey, Miss Kenosha, I see you, girl. Um, so yeah, so I have those. We can always ship. Yeah, it's something different. But the vegan loaves, if you've had the regular cinnamon and raisin, both the vegan and the keto actually taste. There's no major difference in the taste of it, which I was very glad of. And stop it, Cheryl. They are very good. I was pleasantly pleased. They look a little different because they're not as dense. They're not as fluffy as the regular loaves because the flour is different. Well, the flour is different for the keto, but for the vegan, you got the eggs and milk, the dairy. That's what's replaced. Yeah, no major taste difference. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I was pleasantly surprised. Matter of fact, both of them are actually a little more moist and a little um, Dish, you want three? You want three loaves now? Three of the vegan and three of the keto, Cheryl? Is that what I'm hearing? Because I can bring that to you on my way over to Chrissy's or on my way back. And I'll be back home tonight to bake for tomorrow. So if you want them tomorrow, I can bring them to you. So yeah, so that's what's going on right now. I love all of you guys. Thank you so much again for tuning in. I am taking suggestions for next month. We could do this again. And yeah, we'll go from there. Okay. So I love you guys. I am going to sign out now. And I say, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to continue in the feed and or to connect with me separately. Okay. Talk to you until next time. Thanks. Oh, okay. I'm gonna call you, Cheryl. So it's in that.